Hello, dear friends. Today we're coming up with a new subject, not touched before, but I think this is a very nice treatise I have to translate from German into English. It's from Wolfgang Gesswein, Flowers and Grace or Mercy, and it's about the Bachflowers and divided into 7 groups. And I want to read here from the beginning part of the book about the development of the ego. Prior to that, I want to say ego is eternal. Only the false ego is not. So whenever it's written ego here in the book, I will say figo, because it's referring here to the false ego, and to make that clear. So I may have to make 2 videos of that because it's a few pages. Edward Bach realized that the figo is rising when the soul is or the human is going out from the inner unity with its godliness or soul. So when it's going into separation from its soul. As we can see in figure 1, in the beginning is the figo element, of the figo life. There is the element rock rose with the panic type of fear, which is the result of the separation of the harmonious unity with the soul. It is the deepest fear of the human. It arises when the experience of fully sheltered and inner oneness with the divine is lost. So when it goes into a separate singular existence of the figo, this archetype of fear is the natural consequence of the separating from the inner divine unity, and through this separation everything else being and all other beings become opposites, which might hurt or destroy the special and separated existence of the figo. So panic or death, fear of death, for everyone and everything is arising. And because all other figos feel the same and think the same, there is opposition, fighting and suffering. Fear is the narrowness of consciousness, arisen from the separation from divine existence into the separate existence of the false ego. I have to comment here that separatedness is not the problem in itself. The problem in itself is to see only the separatedness without the unity. So there can be unity in diversity and connection. But that is a whole complete different subject matter. Anyone can ask me, and maybe I will do a video on that, or I will post you some information. So, from the view of the all-encompassing Godhood, the Figo element, the Figo is under fundamental illusion because it is not remembering the divine, and that's truly the problem. Because it has closed its eyes from the light of the divine and is denying its absolute existence. That's why the Figo realizes itself as separated, endangered, and not connected to the free flow of divine opulence and power. The soul, on the other hand, has her eyes opened to the divine, and that will be the true ego, and is keeping her full and is in her full blissful love, truth, freedom, and eternality, deathlessness, and is viewing herself in him. So the archetype of fear is primarily connected with the false ego. This is the primarily connected energy to the false ego. It is a narrowing of consciousness in which the false ego is separating from everything else and is hiding in that. In this fearful isolation, the false ego is developing, after the fear, further disharmonic character traits or false ego elements, which cause further psychic disharmonies, derangements, and sufferings, which with their energy or attention are all resolving around the central needs of the false ego to survive, and are circling around that. Distortions like uncertainty, doubt, mental disequilibrium, exhaustion, and pride. When the false ego is finally in pride and has withdrawn from life and other people, it is into a state of solitude, in which after a while awakens the need to be freed and take part fully in life. So the false ego is developing the need to very quickly take part of life and do all the things that it couldn't in the meanwhile. And with this desire, there is birth of an energy which is later growing into the power of desire and greed. Greed is secondarily with the false ego connected energy, whose intention is to go out from the separation from the divine and its sphere, and resulting loneliness, to overcome this loneliness, and doing this by jumping into life and all other entities, and to take part of them, to enjoy them, and to own them. All disharmonic character traits which follow this loneliness, or false ego elements, actually have the goal to satisfy that desire and greed. So it's a truth that the whole existence of the false ego is in between the tension between fear and greed. Fear being the first group, and greed being the seventh or last group. And from this tension is the force, the driver, is rising the force or the driver to free oneself from fear and greed, and to find the harmony between the soul and the false ego, or in this case maybe the ego. The driver is realized in the spiritual evolution through the 38 false ego elements into the 38 divine soul powers, which are then transformed into 38 divine soul powers. So now if we look into figure 1 from the light of this realization, and we look at the first order, so we can see that the whole development of the false ego and its final deliverance is revealed in this first group. The first ego element, the beginning of the left circling picture here, is rock rose. The first flower essence of the first group, the fear. This false ego element is the manifestation of archetype of fear, which is the immediate result of the separation from the unity with the soul. From the first ego element arise from the inner laws that we will later on depict more clearly, the other 4 ego elements or negative character traits of the first group of fear. With the same lawfulness, the false ego is developing six further false ego elements after this group of fear, which all share the common denominator of uncertainty. And that is the second group. And with the separation of the soul that brought fear and uncertainty, they cause that the false ego after that will withdraw from physical reality and will show a lack of interest in the present, which is group 3. And there are 7 ego elements in that group manifested. The 7 disharmonic mental states or false ego elements were successively put into this third group. A lack of interest in the present, the withdrawing of the false ego from active life in the world is understandably leading to a state which is summarized in group number 4 as loneliness. In the first false ego element in the fourth group is water violet, and there the false ego is separating from other beings to make his own way, and in this the false ego has found the height of its separation and isolation, and which started with the archetype of fear. So what of Violet is the 19th false ego element after separation from unity with the soul? That's where the false ego is on the halfway of its development of 38 ego elements.